Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up for you today. Ripple CEO meets with the White House and the Anti-Crypto-Army. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content at the top of the screen. $2.21 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's up 0.1%. 57,100 plus for Bitcoin. 3,000 slightly over for Ethereum. 112 billion plus market cap for Tether. USDC is 34 billion plus right now for market cap. XRP is 43 cents, off by 1.4 in the 24, off by 11.5 in the 7-day, much like the rest of the market. We're waiting and eagerly anticipating the Ripple USD stablecoin. That's what we're waiting on here, ladies and gentlemen. And every day that goes by that we don't have it is a day that USDC gains ground. We need that USD Ripple stablecoin. Where are we at, Ripple? We're waiting. We're waiting. We're excited. We want to see it. 42 cents to 44 cents is where we're at right now. We'll keep an eye on it. I do want to tell you guys before we get started, if you haven't had the opportunity, the window is open to join the Digital Perspectives Mastermind group. There are amazing people in here. You cannot really put a price on these people. They're amazing and brilliant, and they're very polite. You can avoid all of the nonsense and noise from social media. And, you know, look, I know a lot of people don't know this, but most people that invest really end up being like lotto winners. And lotto winners, 70% of them go broke inside of 3 years when they win. I don't want to see that happen to you. And I know you can't keep up with everything and markets are collapsing around us. Get the tools you need, whether it's an investor checklist, portfolio creation, groups and courses, or just that amazing support from the community that we have, the private weekly live stream, and all the other content that we're providing. And if you're interested in automated market makers on the XRP ledger and how to use your assets to your advantage, we're doing all of that inside of this group. So you want to get educated too, it's the place to be. There's no doubt about it. Click the link underneath the video before the DPMG window closes. And if you join the DPMG, you get the Freedom Zone for free. But you can join the Freedom Zone for almost next to nothing if you'd like to do that as well. Let's get started. All right, now this is a call to action right here for anyone in the crypto space to politely and professionally ask Senator Lummis, why is she supporting Chuck Kane? Ian Kane is a political hack who has been brought on to run against John Deaton for Senator Warren. She has basically reached out and got Ian Kane to run against John Deaton because Senator Warren is scared to death that John Deaton is going to beat her, and John Deaton is going to beat her, and he may have to do it without the help of Senator Lummis. But I can tell you this, Senator Lummis, it was a pleasure meeting you at DC Blockchain Summit, but I will exercise the power of this channel and 60 million views to put your ass out of office in Wyoming if you don't get in line and stop backing the Nikki Haley of Massachusetts and get behind a real leader like John Deaton. You're a senator, you're a Republican. There is no sense in you backing Chuck Kane for Massachusetts Senate, knowing full well that Elizabeth Warren has put him there to try to slow down John Deaton. We know Elizabeth Warren is the general of the Anti-Crypto-Army. Why in the world would Senator Lummis ever even consider for a second backing Ian Kane over John Deaton? This is an embarrassment, and it needs to be corrected right away. Please tag her politely and professionally. Let's not mess around. Let's put the heat to her and find out who she really is. Because if she doesn't support John Deaton, then you know she's nothing more than a political plant herself. Because Ian Kane is no Republican. German government that took all that Bitcoin and squashed this market that we're in right now. They got denied the ability to sell with a force to withdraw the assets because there wasn't enough real liquidity on exchanges. However, they found it somewhere. because the German government sold $17,000 worth of Bitcoin, or 17,000 Bitcoin, excuse me, worth $951 million in its largest single day Bitcoin liquidation. If you're wondering what happened to the market, I think we just found it. This is another reason why we need real world asset tokenization. This is another reason because we need the legislation to open up real world asset tokenization. BlackRock's bringing it to the fore. We know BlackRock is a huge player. They are one of the elite players that really do run the world from behind the scenes. Tokenized real world asset fund BUIDL has surpassed $500 million milestone in 4 months since its debut as the tokenized treasury market continues to swell. Shout out to Securitize and Carlos Domingo, who I got to interview at DC Blockchain Summit about that matter as well. Great things are going on. You know it's coming. But we need the legislation to really open the door. And we're going to get it because BlackRock's doing it. And that's how you know it is going to come. So hang in there. Meanwhile, we do have problems here inside of the government and the agencies respectively. So Eleanor Terrett says, I'm told by Democratic staffer familiar with the thinking of how the House leads, they do not expect many Democrats to change their vote tomorrow on Wednesday when they go back to try to override the SAB 121 Repeal Act that was vetoed by the President Biden. Now, that was to stop, we were trying to stop Gary Gensler from writing his own rule that pushed the banks out of the possibility of custodying crypto. The SAB 121 rule written by Gary Gensler at the SEC has harmed the ability for custody and banks to participate. And that's why the act to repeal that went through the House and Senate with bipartisan support and was still vetoed by the president. They're going back trying to get that vote, but it may not happen. However, they say they see a better pathway to overriding SAB 121 through HR 5741, Uniform Treatment for Custodial Assets Act, a bipartisan bill introduced by Representative Mike Flood, co-sponsored by Representative French Hill and Wiley Nickel and Richie Torres. That is a bipartisan effort right there. So maybe we see that act go through, the Uniform Treatment of Custodial Assets Act go through, and that puts to bed the SAB 121. We don't know, but it doesn't look like they're going to get the vote for the overturn of the veto. Maybe we'll see. I don't know, but that's tomorrow. We'll find out. Meanwhile, let's find out what's going on very quickly in the update in Congress. You're going to love what's going on here. Ron Hammond says, this week in Congress and crypto, Congress is back, but not for long. Typically, this is a time for campaign rhetoric and positioning, but crypto has now found itself to be a campaign issue. This week, it means a possible veto override of SAB 121 and multiple big hearings, which is highly unlikely, they say. This is a unique position for crypto because in the past, when there is many active bills, crypto fell to the wayside. That is not the case now because it's become an issue. There's an engaged grassroots movement seen in the FIT21 vote, hefty PACs with winning records, and Trump actively courting crypto. While it may be top of mind for many here, let's not forget there are plenty of other policy and election issues more at the forefront. The Biden post-debate drama will continue to take center stage, and the next few days could easily determine if crypto stays in the Hill mix. So we will look to hear that. Starting with the most important hearing, Senate Ag Dems hearing and CFTC Rost and Benham as the sole witnesses in that committee hearing. As they did a year ago, right before FIT21 was voted on in committee, outlets have reported that Senate Ag Committee is working on a bill. Basically, if they're working on a bill, it's to close the gap between FIT21, the way it was passed from the House, with major bipartisan support. So the details for the Senate market infrastructure effort are not as clear currently, but time is short given Congress has 3 weeks in D.C. before going back to campaigning. Given the issues with the Senate AG's bill 2 years ago and the strong House vote in FIT21, this is the hearing One thing seems to be clear: Senate ag market structure is not fit 21. So even in a world where it moves out of committee and gets a vote in the Senate, the differences in the House versus Senate will need to be resolved, which takes time. Also unclear where the R's are on this matter. So that's what's coming up here. On the other hearings to watch: Yellen in front of Financial Committee and Powell in front of the Senate Banking Committee on Tuesday, Powell in front of the House Financial Services on Wednesday. Custodia and stablecoins and crypto regulations generally could come up, but the economy will dominate. SAB 121 was vetoed by Biden in June, making it the most bipartisan bill to date that the president has vetoed. That is crazy to think about. And the House leads aren't backing down. It seems the veto override could be this week. We'll see what goes on there. And that is a bipartisan effort too, as you could see. So while we are still awaiting the date will happen, with the caveat that it could get pushed to next week, the efforts are a tough uphill climb, as only 21 Ds in May joined all the Rs in support of drastically below the 2/3 threshold needed. Don't count this effort out, though, saying that this leads as the leads for the SAB 121 veto override have been courting several Dems for this week, for the weeks after. We've seen some elements of success with Representative Jackson, who was on no in May, but now is co-sponsoring the latest repeal. They will need to get 2/3 though to make that work. So, not done yet. This is important. This is where Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple come in. Representative Ro Khanna is leading his highly publicized crypto roundtable, the key industry figures on Wednesday in D.C. Participants include, and this here, you can see Kristen Smith from CEO Blockchain Association, Mark Cuban, Anthony Scaramucci, who's a scumbag, and then Brad Garlinghouse, who's amazing, and the Honorable Cristian Carlo, who is also amazing. And several others include senior Biden White House staff. This is really what we need to see. It goes on with the rest of it, but listen, that's what you needed to know here. I'm not going to waste more time. This is a great thread, by the way. I'm not dissing Ron. Ron's amazing. But what I want to show here, just to get to it, is that the leader of the Democratic Party, Ro Khanna, is a secretive blockchain roundtable in D.C. tomorrow. And obviously, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse and the Honorable Cristian Carlo are going to be there. Those two minds really are going to be very important to be at that table. There's no question about that. So we will see where it goes from there, but that's what we have today. And I want to show this because XDC networks, and I covered this, but I need to show this because I think it's so important. XDC Trade Network completes an electronic promissory note transaction on the XDC network. Promissory note, when something is a note. What Judge Torres has told us in the case so far with the SEC versus Ripple is that XRP is not in and of itself a security. What we still do not know is what XRP actually is. Is it just a commodity? Or is it a currency? And that is why I believed ultimately we're going to have to go to the Supreme Court to get that answer. But we could get it other ways through a settlement. We'll have to see. However, you know, this is really something that was set in here and doubled down on. We want to issue billions of notes to sophisticated investors in the finance world, and we want to do this now. I think I can grab this right here.
Who have an interest in earning real yield and putting these stable coins to work in a sustainable way to earn these yields. And that's a fundamentally different approach. We do not want to change any trade practices. That's not none of our concern. But we want to do the same thing that we have done very successfully in the real world by issuing billions of notes to sophisticated institutional investors, and do this in the crypto space. And there's a real opportunity to do this and to do it now.
And there you have it. But in order to do it now and to do it legally, we got to know that this electronic promissory note is clearly recognized legally, legislatively, right? That's what we need. And we still don't quite have that here in the U.S. We need that clarity, and that is going to change everything. Meanwhile, there's speculation about looming settlement with the SEC. Could it be? Could it be? I don't know the answer. Do you? But here's what we do know. We know that, and I want to give this to you because there's been 150 million XRP moved. Ripple unloads 150 million, and it says, and then others move another 400 million. But here's what we do know. The SEC started off saying we wanted 1.95 billion to be paid within 30 days of the proposed final judgment. Judge Torres, that's what they said that they want. Why not 5 billion? Jesus, just while you're at it, dreaming. Then they came back and realized maybe we were a little aggressive with the 1.95 billion. Judge, we want to show you this Terra Luna case where we were awarded a $102 million judgment. And we expect that this serve as an example when you're applying the damages in the SEC versus Ripple case. That's what they tried to do, right? And Ripple said, no, we don't agree with that because Terra Labs was basically they were doing illegal activity, fraudulent activity, right? And there is none of that in the Ripple case. You cannot use that as a measure to say, well, we were wrong about 1.95. It should have been 102 billion. The cases aren't even remotely close, right? And that's why Ripple has said, it should be slashed down to $10 million. That's where we should be. Now, the question here now is, if Ripple were to decide to pay the 102 million that's been asked and adjusted recently, if Ripple were to pay that and get the absolute clarity, there could never be another appeal, there could never be another clawback for what they're doing, there could never be a different change, that they absolutely get the designation of what XRP is without having to go to the Supreme Court, I think that would be worth 102 million, wouldn't it? Maybe even 50. We'll see. But the opportunity and window for settlement always exists. And knowing that Brad Garlinghouse is going to meet tomorrow in D.C. with the current administration, maybe it's legislative clarity that we could get. Because if the current administration realizes that they're losing favor and millions and tens of millions of voters because they've gone against crypto instead of supporting it, if they want to take any of that voter base back away from Trump, the best way to do that is to pass the FIT 21 bill. The best way to do that is to come in and have people like Brad Garlinghouse sit down and figure out what in the hell is going on here and how could we put a bow on it so we can get them going. And when all of that finally does happen, would it be so hard to believe that we could see a $17 XRP? The historical support is there. It doesn't guarantee a damn thing, but the historical support is there, says Agrad Crypto. There you go. That's where we are. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.